Look at yourself! You've gotten so fat. I don't even recognize you anymore. You're not the woman I married.
The monitor beside her bed beeped too fast. Odessa gripped the sheet with one hand, the IV line pulled tight in the other. She watched her husband point a finger at her, like she was a stranger who'd wandered into his own life uninvited. "You're not the woman I married," Ryan said. 9 months pregnant, ankles swollen against a thin hospital pillow, a body that had spent 7 months fighting a child that wasn't even his to fight. She didn't answer. Her jaw tightened, but nothing came out. Behind him, the door opened. A woman in a red dress stepped in holding a bouquet of flowers, the plastic wrap still crinkling in her hand. She didn't look at Ryan first. She looked at Odessa, and she didn't flinch, didn't gloat, didn't do any of the things a mistress was supposed to do standing in a room like this. She just watched, like she already knew how this ended. Odessa's eyes moved from her husband's finger to the flowers in the doorway to the IV taped against her own wrist. Her breathing slowed on purpose. She'd learned, somewhere in the last 8 months, how to go still instead of falling apart. Nobody in that room said the word surrogate. Nobody explained why a family who'd begged her for a favor 8 months earlier had let it come to this: a hospital gown, a stranger's flowers, a husband who couldn't look at her without flinching first. That part came later. This part was where everything broke open. Stay with me part. This story isn't what it looks like yet. I'm Luster, and this one's worth the full watch. 8 months earlier, Odessa was on her knees in front of a toilet at 5 a.m., one hand braced against the tile, the other pressed flat against her stomach like she could hold something steady from the outside. This was the 3rd morning that week. She rinsed her mouth, stood up slow, and caught her reflection in the mirror before she could stop herself. Her face looked wrung out. Her wedding ring sat loose enough now that she'd started leaving it on the nightstand overnight, afraid of losing it down a drain. In the kitchen, Ryan was already dressed for work, scrolling his phone with one hand, coffee in the other. He didn't look up. "You good?" he asked, already halfway to the door. "I'm good," she said, the way she always said it. He left. The door clicked shut behind him, the same way it had every morning for weeks. No goodbye kiss, no hand on her shoulder, nothing that used to be there before her body started changing in ways he couldn't stand to watch. She hadn't wanted any of this to be a secret from herself, at least. She remembered exactly how it started. One Renee's face across her kitchen table, 8 months ago, eyes wet, hands shaking around a mug of tea she never drank. 2 miscarriages. A doctor's warning, Renee never said out loud. Just, "I can't lose another one, Des. I can't go through that again." Odessa had said yes before she'd let herself think it through. She always said yes first, and worried about the cost later. That was the only kind of love she knew how to give. Odessa had said yes. They didn't ask questions, didn't ask for anything back. Her phone buzzed against the counter. Renee's name lit up the screen. Odessa stared at it for 3 full rings, before her thumb finally moved tack, and stopped, an inch above the screen, like some part of her already knew this call wouldn't be the one that helped. Odessa finally picked up on the 4th ring. "Hey, stranger," Renee said, laughing at something in the background. Odessa's Heil 1 music, voices, glasses clinking. A concert, maybe, or a bar. I know, I've been terrible. How's my favorite passenger doing?" Odessa sat down at the kitchen table, one hand still resting low on her stomach. "I threw up 3 times this morning." "Ugh, I remember that part. It gets better, I promise." Muffled, like Renee had turned to say something to someone else. Then, brighter again. "Listen, I'm going to send you something this week. For groceries, doctor stuff, whatever you need." She'd said that 4 times now. Odessa had stopped counting after the 2nd. "Actually," Odessa said carefully, "can I ask you something? My doctor mentioned some swelling patterns that seemed unusual. Did you ever have anything like that?"
With your pregnancies? The music behind Renee got louder for a second, like she'd stepped closer to a speaker. Oh, 6. Hang on. I can barely hear you. A beat too long. You know what? Let's talk tomorrow, okay? I promise. Tomorrow. Love you, bye. The line went dead before Odessa could answer. She sat there a moment, phone still warm against her palm, replaying how smoothly that question had been avoided. Not dodged like an accident. Dodged like something Renee had practiced. She told herself it didn't mean anything. Renee was busy. Renee had 2 kids and a full life, and probably just hadn't heard the question right. She almost believed it. Her phone buzzed once more. 6A text this time. Tomorrow. Promise. 6 followed a few seconds later by a photo Renee had clearly meant to send someone else. A stage, lights, Renee's arm around a friend, both of them laughing. Odessa looked at it for a long moment. Then she set the phone face down on the table and pressed the heel of her hand against her eyes until the pressure behind them passed.
That night, on the fire escape outside her bedroom window, Odessa sat wrapped in Ryan's old jacket, watching the lights of Queens blink on across the rooftops. Her hand found her stomach without her telling it to. "You're going to have a mom who actually wanted you," she said quietly, to no one but the baby. That's gotta count for something. Her phone buzzed. "Marisol, you're up late," Marisol said when she picked up. "Couldn't sleep." "You never can anymore." "Careful. How are you doing?" "Actually doing, not the version you give everyone else." Odessa opened her mouth to say fine, the way she always did. Instead, something in her chest loosened, just slightly. "I'm scared," she said. The word came out smaller than she meant it to. Not just about the pregnancy, about all of it. "You know you're allowed to say no to people, right?" Marisol said. "Even now, even this far in." Odessa let out a breath that was almost a laugh, almost not. "Bit late for that." "It's never too late to stop pretending you're fine, Des." Odessa looked out at the skyline, lights blurring slightly at the edges. "Is Ryan around more, or less, lately?" "Be honest," Marisol asked. Odessa hesitated. 1 second, then 2. Long enough that Marisol noticed. "He's just stressed," Odessa said finally. "Work stuff." On the other end, Marisol went quiet, in a way that said she didn't believe it either. The apartment was too quiet when Odessa let herself in through Julian and Renee's side door. Back from the bathroom, a glass of water still in her hand. She stopped in the hallway. "She doesn't need to know everything, Julian. It's not going to happen to her. It didn't happen to her the first time. It's not going to happen now." Renee's voice, low and fast, coming from the kitchen. "You don't know that," Julian said. "You don't know that for sure. And neither does she. She's fine. Look at her. She's fine." Odessa's grip tightened around the glass. She stepped back into the doorway, just enough to be seen. Renee's face changed instantly, the easy, practiced warmth sliding back into place, like a mask clicking shut. "Hey, there you are. We were just talking about the nursery colors." Julian didn't look at her. He picked up his water glass and studied it, like it had suddenly become interesting. Odessa looked between them. "What's not going to happen to me?" "Nothing," Renee said, too quickly, already reaching for a serving dish. "Nursery stress. You know how Julian gets." Odessa didn't move. She let the silence sit there, a beat longer than was comfortable, the way she'd started doing more often lately, just to see what people did with it. Nobody filled it. She went home that night and sat on the edge of her bed, phone in both hands, and typed the word clotting into the search bar before she could talk herself out of it. Then she added pregnancy risk, high-risk history. She sat there a long time, the blue light of the screen, the only thing lit in the room, scrolling slowly through words her own doctor had never once used with her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Renee. "Sorry about earlier. Love you. Talk soon." Odessa didn't answer. She just kept scrolling,
her thumb slowing over one line in particular, reading it twice like it might change the second time.
Ryan showed up to the next appointment early. Odessa almost didn't recognize the version of him sitting beside her in the waiting room, knee bouncing, hand reaching for hers before she'd even offered it. "I've been a mess," he said, quiet enough that only she could hear. "I know I have. I want to be better at this. At all of it." She studied his face for a long moment, looking for the crack in it, the tell that would say this wasn't real. She didn't find one. Not yet. "Okay," she said, careful, like the word cost her something. He squeezed her hand through the ultrasound, laughed at the technician's joke about the baby's stubborn position, kept his hand on the small of her back the whole walk to the car. For the first time in months, Odessa let herself lean into it, instead of bracing for it to disappear. That night, they ordered takeout and watched half a movie before Odessa fell asleep on his shoulder. Actually asleep, the kind of deep, unguarded sleep she hadn't managed in weeks. She woke up to an empty side of the bed and the sound of the front door easing shut. His phone was still on the nightstand. It buzzed once, screen lighting the dark room, a name she didn't recognize, cut off mid-preview. "Miss you too. Can't wait until..." The screen went dark again, before she could read the rest. 2 hours later, the door opened. Ryan came in smelling like garlic and candlelight, not sawdust and concrete. "Late one," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. "Job site stuff." Odessa said nothing. She just watched him undress in the dark, filing the smell away the same quiet way she'd been filing everything else for months. Proof. Stacking up, waiting for a moment she wasn't ready for yet. The message was still open on his phone when Odessa picked it up the next morning, her thumb moving before her mind caught up to what she was doing. She hadn't planned to look. She told herself that for exactly as long as it took to see the name at the top of the thread. Priya. Months of messages, photos, a voice memo dated 3 days after the doctor's appointment, where he'd held her hand through the whole ultrasound. She read the last one twice. "I told her the truth. This marriage ended a long time ago. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. A year. Not weeks. Not since the pregnancy got hard to watch. A year." She heard his key in the door, and didn't put the phone down. Ryan stopped in the doorway, saw what was in her hand, and didn't reach for it. Didn't apologize. Something in his shoulders loosened instead, like a weight sliding off. "How long?" she said, not a question. Flat. He looked at her for a long moment. Over a year. The silence after that lasted longer than either of them could stand. "I told her the marriage was already over," he said finally. "Because it was. Not to me it wasn't." He didn't argue. He just said the line again, quieter this time, like it had become easier to believe the more he repeated it. "You're not the woman I married, Des." She set the phone down on the counter, careful, deliberate, the way you set something down when your hands don't trust themselves not to throw it. "Get out," she said. He left without another word. That night, alone, she felt the first cramp low in her stomach, 6 sharp, wrong. Nothing like the ones her doctor had described as normal. She reached for her phone and dialed Ryan first, out of habit more than hope. It rang 4 times. Went to voicemail. She was still holding the phone when the second cramp hit, hard enough to bring her to her knees on the bathroom floor. The ambulance ride blurred into fluorescent lights, and a nurse's voice asking questions faster than Odessa could answer them. Any family history of complications? Clotting disorders? Hemorrhage risk? Anything like that? "I don't think so," Odessa said, breath catching between words. "Why?" The nurse glanced at a tablet, scrolling. "It's noted here. Shared donor medical disclosure. Says the intended mother has a documented clotting factor. High risk classification. I just want to make sure we're watching for the same thing in you, given the biological overlap." Odessa's whole body went still, the pain for 1 second forgotten. "Renee has a clotting disorder?" The nurse looked up, something shifting in her face. "It's in the intake form. Signed back in. She checked the tablet again. 8 months ago. 8 months. Before Odessa had ever agreed to anything. Nobody told me that, Odessa said, her voice barely above the beeping around her. The nurse's expression softened into something careful. I'm sorry. I assumed you already knew. The doors at the end of the hall swung open. Julian stepped through, out of breath, eyes finding Odessa's face across the room. She watched something in him drop the second their eyes met. Not relief that she was stable, not concern for what was happening to her body. Guilt, plain and unmistakable, arriving on his face half a second before he could stop it. Des, he started. You knew, she said. Not loud. She didn't need to be loud. You knew this whole time. Julian didn't answer right away. He stood at the foot of the bed, hands loose at his sides, like he didn't know what to do with them anymore. No, I found out before you signed anything, he said finally. Renee's doctor told her a third pregnancy could kill her. Told her the clotting risk was real, not a maybe. I heard the whole conversation. And you let me say yes anyway. I didn't know how to tell you without losing my own marriage over it. His voice cracked on the last word. I told myself it wouldn't happen to you, that it was different somehow, because it wasn't your body that already failed once. Renee appeared in the doorway behind him, out of breath, mascara smudged at the corners of her eyes. She took one look at the monitors, at Odessa's face, and her own composure cracked down the middle. You're fine, she said, too fast. Look, you're fine. Nothing happened to you. Something almost happened to me, Odessa said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You knew that before I ever said yes. I wanted this baby so badly, Des. You don't understand what it's like to be told your body can't. I understand exactly what that's like now, Odessa said. You made sure of that. Renee opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time since Odessa had known her, she had nothing polished to offer. Footsteps in the hallway. Ryan appeared in the doorway, pale, his eyes moving from Odessa to the monitors to Julian's face. Behind him, Priya hovered a step back, arms crossed tight over her chest. He told me everything on the drive here, Priya said quietly, not looking at Ryan. I didn't know about any of this. I wouldn't have... She stopped herself. I told him he needed to be here, whatever that's worth. Ryan stepped closer to the bed, hands hanging useless at his sides. I didn't know it was this bad. I swear I didn't know. Odessa looked at him for a long moment, calm in a way that surprised even her. You didn't ask, she said. That's the part you don't get to walk back. He didn't argue. For the first time since she'd known him, he had nothing to say back either. 6 months later, Odessa stood in the small kitchen of her own apartment in Astoria, sunlight cutting across the counter, the baby monitor humming quietly from the next room. Renee's name lit up her phone. A text, not a call. Can we talk? I miss you. Odessa read it once. Then she typed back, steady, no hesitation. I need distance right now. That's not going to change soon. She hit send and set the phone face down on the counter, the same way she used to when she was too afraid to hear the answer. This time, it didn't feel like fear. It felt like a door closing on her own terms. For once. Marisol let herself in without knocking, the way she always did now, 2 coffees in hand. How'd it go with Julian yesterday? She asked, sliding 1 cup across the counter. He's trying, Odessa said, slowly. It's something. And Ryan? Picks up his son twice a week, on time, mostly. She shrugged, no bitterness left in it. That's what he gets to be now. Not everything, just that. That evening, after Marisol left, Odessa carried the baby out to the fire escape, the same spot where she used to sit alone, talking to a child that wasn't hers by blood, but had become entirely hers by everything that mattered since. No phone in her hand this time. No one to check on. Just the lights of Queens blinking on across the rooftops, and a small, steady weight against her chest. She'd spent her whole life being the one who showed up for everyone else. The one who said yes before she let herself ask what it would cost. If this story stayed with you, that means something. I'm Luster. 12 Tell me in the comments if you'd have made the same choice Odessa did. She spent her whole life being loved for what she gave away. It took almost losing everything to learn she was allowed to keep something for herself.